friends, a happy and blessed Easter. Many times in our human history, we've kind of stepped back and said at different events, this changes everything. Imagine the discovery of fire, groping around before then in darkness and in coldness. Suddenly a lightning strike, flame was domesticated, and that changed everything. The word was able to be printed in 1440 and distributed across the entire globe. Unlike before, the printing press, Gutenberg, changed everything. And I don't have to tell you that in the last century and a half, electricity, the light, the internet, the social media that we examine today, and all the other electronic devices, all have changed everything. It has all changed. But none of them, my friend, holds a candle to what we celebrate tonight, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Those three words that those women heard when they went to the tomb, he has risen, those three words were a watershed in the history of all mankind. And it enabled those 12 individuals to spread across the known world. And today, to increase not from 12 to just a few hundred, but to 1 out of every 3 individuals on the face of the globe today who professes to be a follower of Christ. Jesus' resurrection was the dividing point between our history. Everything that happened before was before Christ. Everything that happened after is the word, the year of the Lord, the Lord's presence. And so how do we live? How do we live the baptism that's proclaimed in the resurrection? Well, the resurrection is this. It tells us that what we do today in our lives matters. Why? Because Jesus, in rising, closed the transition between our life here and our life thereafter. He made that transition between life and death absolutely seamless. And he told us that we can take it with us. Now, not our bank accounts, not our car, not our house, but we can take it with us. We can take the good that we do for others with us. And all we have to do is just read a little bit more about Jesus after his resurrection when he appears to the apostles. What does he bring? He brings peace. He brings forgiveness, even to those disciples who abandoned him and denied him. He brings peace and forgiveness. He brings patient teaching to the disciples on the way to Emmaus. He brings a generous table fellowship to those same apostles at Emmaus. And he brings concern to his disciples that they have the strength, that he promises to send them the advocate, to send them a good friend that will bring them through all of the trials of life. He does all that because, my friends, before he died, he lived all of those things. He was the first one to make that transition between death and life, and he invites every single one of us to do exactly the same. A life well lived, a transition to a life well lived, a transition to the same. Now we do that through the good works that we perform, don't we? We are all involved in such things as painting people's houses, fixing them up, crusading for justice, being a good neighbor, loving our neighbor as ourselves, building hospitals, and all of those good works, they all transition over. But I've got a job. I've got a family to raise. I'm trapped for time. How do I do all of that? Well, tonight I would challenge everyone, not with 3 or 4 different ideas, but let's zero in on just one thing that we can do to honor the resurrection of Jesus and the transition that he has gapped between life and death. One thing that we can do, and it is spend quantity time with those whom you love. Now, not quality time. You know, we have a kind of a cliche that we sometimes use called quality time, but we're talking about quantity time. Think about Jesus once again. Jesus, when you add up all of the healing, all of the teaching, all of the stories he told, and the various activities he partook of during his ministry, they would probably add up to maybe about 4 or 5 days, perhaps a week or so. What did he do with all the rest of those 3 years that he spent with those disciples? He spent quantity time with them, wasteful time, hanging out time. But he used that time to get to know the depths of their souls, the bottoms of their hearts. And they did the same with him. They had to spend that time. That time is absolutely critical to a relationship. My mission, in all honesty, is to be a minister or a messenger of the love of God to my wife, so that we can show and demonstrate the love of God in real time, that it really does exist here on earth. That's our mission. But I can't do that by just giving her the scraps of time that are left over. I have to make a commitment to be with her in quantity time. That's what is required in making our relationship work. And so we are challenged by the resurrection to do exactly that. Those women went to the tomb, and there is one thing that is uniform throughout the 4 Gospels and the account of the resurrection. They all differ just a little bit, but they all have an empty tomb, and they all have a stone that has been rolled away. Our challenge, my friends, is to look at our own lives and see what stone lies in the way between me and finding Jesus and those whom I am closest to. And if there is a stone there, use this Easter, use this resurrection to roll the stone away and to make your life one with the ones who are closest to you. Jesus rose from the dead. Jesus made seamless the passage from life to death. We bring with us everything of our good works from our lives into our death. And that makes all the difference. That changes everything. Jesus' resurrection changes everything.